Is tag team wrestling sad?
Oh, you didn't know?
We're here to talk about that. Tag team wrestling in 2024 is not what it could be if you ask certain wrestling fans. And even if you ask me, tag team wrestling can be so much hotter than it is right now. Think about in WWE. The WWE Tag Team Champions for either Raw or SmackDown have not been defended on a PLE since WrestleMania. What? That is a real statistic. We're almost at the end of the summer, and there's been no PLE since WrestleMania? It's insane, right? So what is the deal with tag team wrestling at its current stage in either AEW or WWE? Because the same thing could be said about AEW. Well, I'm here to talk about it. Look, I've been a tag team wrestling fan for a long time. One of my favorite tag teams growing up was the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. And there's also this weird thing that I noticed about tag team wrestling. I know it's weird, but especially back in the day when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, tag teams, they had a specific look about them, right? It was like, if you look at the Steiner brothers, Rick Steiner, short hair, short haircut, facial hair. Scott Steiner, long hair, clean shaven. Look at the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart, long hair, clean shaven. Jim Neidhart, buzz cut, shorter hair, facial hair. I don't know. It was weird. Of course, there were some exceptions to the rule. You had guys like the Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon. They both had long hair and facial hair. You had the Bushwhackers, short hair, facial hair. So, of course, there were always those exceptions to the rule, like even the Strike Force, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, both clean shaven, both longer hair. So, yes, always exceptions. But one of the things that I noticed was that one team or one partner had short hair and facial hair, and the other one had long hair and clean shaven. Don't know why I noticed it, but as a kid, I always wanted the one that was like the other to meet in the ring, if that makes sense. So like Bret Hart, if the Steiners were gonna fight the Hart Foundation, and they had some great matches, go back and watch those matches. Steiners and the Hart Foundation, I always wanted to see Scott Steiner lock up with Bret Hart or Jim Neidhart lock up with Rick Steiner. That was my bag, right? I'm getting off topic here, but this is the weird thing that I noticed, so I just had to speak on it. But in those times in tag team wrestling didn't have a lot of story. The best stories that were told within the tag team sphere, the notorious ones, the ones that you remember, were when they split the team up. Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. Those are the stories that you remember. It's the breakup, the matches, the feuds. It was just like, a bunch of matches. One team wins, then the other wants revenge. Rinse, repeat. So notorious. I'm just saying that because historically, tag team wrestling has not been counted on for its episodic story, for a story that gets you invested in it. It has not been counted for that. But right now, tag team wrestling, as far as a roster goes, the talent in tag team wrestling could never be better. If you look at things like in 2010, 2011 for the WWE, for instance, tag team wrestling was the shits, okay? I mean, literally, there was a tag team called The Shiz. It was Big Show and Miz. For Shizzle, my nizzle. That was a tag team. Don't even get me started on Jizz. Yes, Jizz. It was Chris Jericho and Miz, okay? Their name was Jizz.
Like Jizz. Yeah.
There was the Dastardly ones, or the Dashing ones. The Dashing ones. It was, check this out, Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, okay? Now, look how far they've come, but they were a tag team. Here's one that I forgot all about. I forgot that Harry Smith, Davey Boy Smith Jr., was actually in the WWE. Totally forgot about that. He teamed with TJ Wilson. They were the Hart Dynasty with Natty Neidhart. I totally forgot all about that. And they were on the top of the tag team division. They were feuding with the Nexus and Air Boom, which is Matt Sydal, Evan Bourne, and Kofi Kingston. And I think, weirdly enough, Kofi went with Mark Henry. Didn't they have a tag team? Or was it Evan Bourne and Mark Henry? One of those. So my point is, tag team wrestling in 2010, at least as far as WWE goes, was the drizzling shits. Now look on the other side in TNA. TNA had a whole lot of problems around that time. They were trying to compete with the WWE. They actually had an opportunity. They had a list of all these legends, but their tag team roster was fucking stacked. They had LAX, which was Ortiz and Santana, or was it Homicide and Hernandez? It was actually Homicide and Hernandez. They had the Beer Money, which was James Storm and Bobby Roode. They had Team 3D, Bubba and Devon, which I thought they were still kicking on all cylinders at that time, in my opinion. They
not that young.
had the Motor City Machine Guns. They had Christopher Daniels and Elix Skipper, I think, at that time, or I could be wrong with that, but I'm going off the top of my head here, so bear with me on that. I think I got about 87%, 90% of the tag team roster at that time right. But point being, they had a stacked tag team roster in NWA TNA, and they were doing really good with it. They were telling good storylines. I think what's going on right now in 2024 in the tag team division, it can be just boiled down to the idea that factions have taken precedent over tag team wrestling. So the storylines that you're getting are between the factions, right? It's the faction warfare, it's the gang warfare, the gang mentality, and that right now is being pushed to the forefront. More people are joining factions instead of teaming in 2-on-2 action. You know what I'm trying to say, right? So instead of getting one partner, I'm going to get 5, right? So look at the tag team champions in the WWE currently, right? You got the Tongas, Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga, sometimes Jacob Fatu. They're going to probably do the Freebird rule. Look up the Fabulous Freebirds when you got the time. Michael P.S. Hayes, Jimmy Garvin, Terry Bam Bam Gordy. Look them up. They were they were something to behold. Terry Gordy only got better over time too, by the way, and he passed away way too young. Do your research on him. He's awesome. And Michael P.S. Hayes is still actually doing stuff with the WWE to this day. He is a producer, so he works behind the scenes, and a lot of people attribute the success of the Bloodline to him in some part. Probably him working with Paul Heyman and some other great minds, but Michael P.S. Hayes still does it. I digress. Back to the Freebird rule. So you got Tonga Loa, Tama Tonga that are on the top of the tag team division as the tag team champions on SmackDown. What are they a part of? The Bloodline. That's right. They're a part of the Bloodline. They're a part of a faction. They're pieced off a piece of a faction right now. The Bloodline. Solo Sikoa. So let's go on Raw. Okay, let's go on Raw. Who are the tag team champions on Raw? Oh, Finn Balor and JD McDonough. Finn Balor, JD McDonough, what are they a part of? Oh, Judgment Day. That's right. Boom shakalaka. They're a part of a faction. They're two pieces of a pod in a faction right now, right? Okay, so you don't understand what I'm saying about factions and you think it's just maybe exclusively for the WWE? Fine, let's go to AEW. Who are the AEW World Tag Team Champions right now? The Young Bucks. What are they a part of right now? Most of you probably have no idea or actually give a flying fuck, but I'm going to tell you anyways. The Elite. Boom, a stable. Jack Perry, Kazuchika Okada, the Young Bucks, and maybe Hangman Adam Page if he decides to be a part of it. I don't know. So the point I'm making is factions now are taking precedent over tag teams as far as talking and telling an episodic, linear feud, storyline, whatever you want to call it. This is what is pushing tag team wrestling to the background. So you got tag teams, great tag teams like DIY, the Creed Brothers, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. Those tag teams now are the way that they're telling the stories is either through breakups, because I mean Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods is another example. They're in the New Day, and I actually feel like their story should be more like a Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys. That should be the story from the first one when Martin Lawrence's character thought Will Smith's character was cheating on his wife.
No, come on, Mike. Mike, put it back in. I can't believe I let you
That that whole story. Oh, Mike, I'll put the clip. I'll put the clip right here, so you'll see the clip. But that's what they need to do. They need to have that storyline where they don't actually break up. But with the Final Testament kind of getting in the head of Xavier Woods and Odyssey Jones like joining up and kind of maybe taking over for Big E, but not really. I really think that the story should conclude with Odyssey Jones beating the shit out of them and then maybe getting a tag team partner, somebody like Carmelo Hayes or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And then feuding with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and Kofi going, man, I maybe shouldn't have trusted that dude, and maybe I should have listened to you more, Xavier. You know, you my dog. Like, and then dapping up and hugging and being emotional and coming back together, and maybe Big E being a part of them, realizing that you shouldn't bicker, you guys should be together, and it's like you ride together, you die together, but it's bad boys for life or something like that. That's something that I think that they should explore with that program instead of having Xavier turn on them.
We ride together. We die together. Bad boys for life.
Because on the other side of that, you also have Austin Theory, and we're waiting to see when they're gonna Grayson Waller and Austin Theory are gonna explode. We're waiting to see when Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are gonna explode again. So we've got all of these stories. We're waiting to see Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins break up and Montez Ford get his singles run, okay? So these are all examples of tag teams that we just can't wait to see break up because we either want to see them feud or we've been waiting for one half of the tag team to actually get their big singles run. This is something that tag team wrestling needs to fix because it always builds to that. It's either we want to see them feud or we want to see the one that we like the most branch off and do single stuff, you know? And that's always kind of been tag team wrestling's Achilles heel, you know? And factions kind of help that for better or for worse. So like when I was talking about factions taking precedent, it's not always a bad thing. It actually can help solidify a tag team, or it could also help strengthen a tag team and keep their run going on longer. You see what I'm saying? So it's not always a bad thing. So tag team wrestling right now, is it sad? Sort of, kind of. Yeah, I can sort of see it being sad right now. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of direction. If you go back over to the AEW, a couple of years ago, they had a strong tag team roster. They had Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian, or was that Christopher Daniels? It was one of them. I think it was Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. No, it was Scorpio Sky. Yeah, so they had Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky, and Ethan Page, who's no longer in AEW. They had Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. They had the Young Bucks. They had the Lucha Brothers. They had LAX, which was Ortiz and Santana, but they were going by a different name. I can't remember that right now. They had FTR. They had Butcher and the Blade, which were jobbers, but okay, they were serviceable tag team, and they were doing some stuff there. They were kind of building them to end up be absolutely nothing, but they were building them at some point. They had Top Flight. They had the other team that's like Top Flight, Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. So they had a roster of tag teams, and then what happened? They all started splitting up. Or just going on their different, and like now they have nothing. Now they're left with the Acclaimed, FTR, and the Young Bucks, and that's legitimately all they have because they started to go more the faction route, and now the people that are in factions, they're going after the Trios Championship. So in regard to factions taking over, this might have been an Achilles heel for the tag team division in AEW because now they have the Trios Championships. So would-be tag team champions are now picking another partner and going after the Trios Championships. Look no further than the House of Black. Brody King and Buddy Matthews could be tag team champions in AEW right now, but they're competing in the Trios division. Look at Austin and Colton Gunn in the Bang Bang Gang. They could be going for the tag team championships right now, and look at them. They're in the Trios. So there's a lot of that in the Trios division that's kind of taking a brunt of what could be a solid tag team division. And that can really muddy the waters there too. So maybe like in reforming the tag team division in AEW, they can have a come to Jesus moment and realize that maybe the trios championship and the tag team championship might not ever work out, and maybe they need to either combine or put one on one side and the other on the other side. Something needs to happen with that, because it muddies the water and it gets way too confusing. Like if I lost a tag team match, then guess what? I'm just going to go pick another guy and we're going to go after the trios championships. Kind of makes things a little weird, right? So tag team wrestling, is it sad right now? Not so much. I mean, there's a lot of promise. Factions are keeping tag team wrestling alive. We just need to start telling episodic stories that get people invested in the tag teams again, so that we're not waiting like we have been waiting for 4 or 5 decades in tag team wrestling historically for the teams to split or for the best partner to go and have a super singles run and forget all about his partner, right? That's all it is. And it's kind of been that same way for a long time, and it hasn't really evolved. And like I said, in AEW, they're evolving to the trios. In the WWE, they're evolving to factions. We got to see if they take tag team divisions up a notch or they start to phase tag team divisions out. I'm starting to think it might be the former. I think they're going to take tag team wrestling up a notch. That's my opinion. But what do you guys think? I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment. Is tag team wrestling in a sad state right now? Is it so sad that it's so hard to get out of it and it'll never get out? Or is it just a little sad and all it needs is something to cheer it up? You guys let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out. And as always, guys, stay tuned for more.